It is the end of 2025. The beginning of 2026 is coming. And what I want to do in the next handful of episodes here for you is recap some of the biggest lessons that I have learned over this past year of producing this podcast. Of course, doing lots of research and interviewing lots of people that are way smarter than me in the very specific areas that we know influence our health the most. And I view my job as I'm just passing this on. I'm taking what I can, of course, but then passing it on so that you can benefit from it as well. We're going to dive into sleep today and the lessons that I've learned about good quality sleep. Welcome back to the Begin Within Health show. Hey, if you haven't done so and you are a regular viewer or listener to the show, if you wouldn't mind doing me a huge favor and making sure that you subscribe or follow the show and then rate and review the show in your podcast player or whatever form that you consume this content on. I would appreciate it so much. And it helps other people to find the show so that they can benefit from it as well. And I want to make sure that in the months and hopefully years to come, as I produce this podcast, that each and every episode is valuable for you. So, what I'm going to ask you to do, if you could leave a comment, just leave a comment, a question that you have, or a topic that you'd love for me to cover in a future episode. I would love for you to do that because it will help me direct my attention to the areas that will benefit you the most. So just drop a comment. You've got a question or a topic that you think would be interesting for me to cover, or even a guest that you'd love for me to have on the show. Put that in the comments. I thank you so much for doing that, for rating, reviewing the show, and then just letting me know what you're most interested in learning about in the field of health and fitness. Now, let's dive into sleep. Let's talk about it. I'm going to share some clips from episodes this year that I thought were most powerful on the topic of sleep. And of course, I probably can save us both some time here. If you are expecting that I'm going to tell you anything revolutionary about sleep, this might be a little bit disappointing for you. There's no hack, there's no supplement that replaces it, there's no um, sleep smarter, not longer type of trick here. Really, we need to sleep. And what this year has taught me is while that's not revolutionary, the importance of sleep is being understood more and more, which for me has moved me to take a better look at it. So I'm talking about understanding better why sleep matters so much and what happens when you don't get enough of it. Because when you start to see data, when you start to see patterns and they align with what you are experiencing in life, which is has been the case for me in the research that I've done and then of course my own experience, it becomes kind of impossible to tell yourself that sleep is not that important. I'll sleep when I'm dead, those kinds of things. Today, I want to pull together these insights for you from multiple episodes where I've explored sleep from different angles. I want to share with you research, tracking data, and real world impact on the importance of sleep. And it's something that I wish, of course, I had discovered or understood better. Probably a better way to put it. I wish it's something that I wish I had understood better years ago, 5, 10, 15 years ago. I mean, I wish that it was something that I was just brought up knowing, but here we are. I'm learning as I go, just like you. And the adjustments that I have made and we've made in our family to prioritize sleep have made a huge difference in our lives this year and how we're feeling, energy levels, and of course, our overall health. So I want you to benefit in the same way. So what I want to do is share some of these highlights with you as I go through and kind of recap some of these big lessons that I've taken away. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about tracking. If you've been around, you know that I tracked my heart rate variability for a good chunk of the year and still do it most of the time. And that revealed some really big opportunities when it came to sleep. Now, I'm using a Garmin watch, and if you're not familiar with heart rate variability, it's very basically. I'm gonna make this super basic, um, because there's so much more to it. So cardiologists listening are gonna roll their eyes. But basically, heart rate variability is the measurement of the variation in time between your heartbeats. Okay. So the more variation, the better. The more stressed you are, the more kind of consistent, like mechanical structure that heart rate becomes. And so when there's a lot of variation, it's better for your body. There's a lot of recovery happening, stress is lower. And I went into tracking thinking like, hey, I'm doing great. I know a lot about health. I'm managing my stress well. My sleep's probably great. On and on and on. Right. Well, I got humbled and I want to share with you a clip. This is from episode 251 about some of the things that I learned. Okay. So here's probably the biggest one. And it's made a big difference in how I feel. It's made a big difference in my health. I honestly, I've lost a little bit of weight, and I think this is the biggest adjustment that I've made, getting more sleep. Sorry, you knew that was coming, right? And if you listen to the show before, you know how important sleep is. But uh, in particular, when I look at that graph, that body battery graph, here's what I've learned. Throughout the day, there are stressors. They come and go. There are few opportunities, and I have to be super intentional about getting any blue time during the day, right? That rest time where my body battery is actually charging. I need to be super intentional about it. And I'm talking about like, I got to take a nap. I got to lay down and close my eyes and just have a little bit of time to just breathe and clear my head, right? It is where I need to sit outside in the sun and just breathe and watch the birds and listen to the wind in the trees and the bird song, right? It has to be super intentional in order for me to get that blue rest where my body battery is charging during the day. So, what that means is during most of the day, that battery is going down. It's going down, and it's sometimes it's going down super fast. It's going to be depleted, just like your cell phone, right? Just like any battery. When you're using the thing, it's going down. Now, the the big time, the main time that you have to plug in, the main time that you have to charge that body battery is sleep. Every day you get a shot at it, every single day. And of course, theoretically, the more tired you are, the more depleted it was during the day, the more restful your sleep would be that night, right? It stands true. Oh, I'm so exhausted. I slept like a log last night, right? So um, you can catch up, but what you need to do is make sure that you are getting enough sleep. That was a hard truth for me to face. All my attempts to rest during the day, my efforts to slow down, watch the birds, be mindful, sit outside, they barely registered on the body battery as actual recovery. The data showed me that sleep, real sleep, proper sleep, that was the only time that my body was genuinely recovering and recharging. And what I learned was I wasn't giving that enough time to do its thing. Now, I mentioned body battery. Let me explain what that is, basically, because I think it's important for you to understand in the results that I was seeing. So let me go back to that episode 251. Here's a clip to help you understand that a little bit better. This is basically A number, a score, a battery level that the app gives to you or gives to your body based on the relationship between your stress and rest times in life. The more restful things are, the more quickly your body battery charges. Okay. The more restful. And this is based on your heart rate variability. So the higher your heart rate variability is in a period of time, that can charge your body battery. The more restful those moments are, the less stress that are in them, the faster the battery charges. The more stressful moments drain the battery, your body battery score. Super eye opening for me. When I looked at my daily graph, which shows blue for times when my battery is charging and red for times when it's draining, I expected to see mostly blue with some red during workouts or during, stressful times like I'm stuck in traffic or whatever the case is. What I actually saw was mostly red all day long with only small blue periods during sleep. And even those weren't long enough because I wasn't getting enough sleep. I'm thinking, hey, I'm totally fine on whatever, right? 6 hours, 7 hours. And my kind of self image, my understanding of the importance of sleep in comparison to reality in face of the objective data was mind blowing, to say the least. And the thing was, I felt fine. I thought I was managing stress well. I was productive. I was functional. I was getting stuff done. But my body was keeping score. And that's what's interesting about heart rate variability is that it's the score that your body's keeping all the time. And there's cumulative effect on that stress that maybe you've not noticed for months or even years, maybe decades. And for me, I realized the score behind the scenes wasn't good. I was losing. I was losing the stress battle, and sleep was a huge key. Just a side note, when it comes to stress, that's kind of the sneaky thing about it, and the sneaky thing about chronic sleep deprivation is you adapt to it. It becomes your normal. Being stressed becomes your normal, and you stop noticing how it's affecting you because after a while you have nothing to compare it to. This is just how I feel. But your body notices, your organs notice. And eventually, that accumulated stress is going to show up as real health problems for us. And so, if you're like me, the big change that you can make is to get more good sleep. All right. So, we've established now that sleep affects your stress levels and your recovery, but let's talk about what happens to your actual brain function when you don't sleep enough, because it explains so much about why healthy habits are hard to figure out. They're hard to get going, they're hard to maintain when you're tired. There is research that looked at people who got 6 hours of sleep versus 9 hours, and it measured how that sleep affected their ability or lack of ability to control their impulses. Not like risk taking behavior, but actual impulse control. What happens in the moment. And the findings were that sleep deprivation doesn't make you more likely to take risks, but it absolutely destroys your ability to stop yourself from acting on impulses. So let me give you a clip. I dug into that research back in episode 244. Here's a clip from it that explains what I'm talking about. The big lesson, right? Shorter sleep, sleeping less can make us more likely to act on impulse. What does that help us with? Well, if you find yourself grabbing unhealthy snacks, skipping workouts, snapping at loved ones, it might not be that you're a terrible person. It might be perhaps a sleep problem. Think about what that means in real life. You know, you should eat the salad, right? You know what healthy is. Your long term thinking brain wants the salad, but you're tired. And so your impulse control system is offline and you order the burger and fries because your brain just wants immediate pleasure and relief. Or the two options are right in front of you on the table: eat more of this, less of this. I know the right answer, but which one I'm going to do in the moment if I'm sleep deprived, right? Huge, huge to understand how sleep affects our ability to control our impulses. Another example, you know, you should work out, right? But the voice says, just skip it today. And it's louder than usual because your prefrontal cortex, the part that's supposed to regulate impulses, is sleep deprived. It's not working. And so what's going to happen, right? It's not a character flaw. It's not a lack of willpower. It's neuroscience. It's how the brain works. The brain needs sleep. It literally doesn't function properly when you're sleep deprived. And so expecting yourself to make good decisions on 6 hours of sleep is not a wise choice to make. And the kicker is this: you may be beating yourself up for a lack of discipline when the problem isn't your character. It's not that you're not a disciplined person. The problem is that you're trying to be disciplined with a brain that is impaired due to lack of sleep. Get the sleep first, and everything else gets easier for real, literally. And maybe not just easier, but everything gets possible, especially when it comes to making good decisions that are going to benefit you and your health long term. Sleep is really going to benefit how your brain works right now. We just established that. But it also is about long term disease risk. And I touched on this already earlier in our conversation. But chronic sleep deprivation is directly connected to diseases that affect us most. Diseases like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer. Uh, it's not just it might help us, right? Poor sleep damages your body in measurable, progressive ways. Um, Here's a little more on this from episode 251. Give it a listen. Well, here's the thing: stress, if it's not addressed, is connected to higher risks of disease. And they are the lifestyle diseases that, and by lifestyle, I mean, you know, diseases that come as a result of lifestyle. We're talking about cardiovascular disease. We're talking about diabetes, lifestyle diseases that come as a result. If you boil it all down, it's just extra stress that is unaddressed. The risks of those diseases are increased. Now, of course, I'm not saying if you manage your stress and you're always in the blue on the graph, like there's no way you're ever going to get sick. That is not the case. We're talking about risk. We're always talking about risk, but there is definitely a connection between those diseases, chronic diseases, and sometimes serious terminal diseases like cancer, and elevated stresses over time. Unresolved stress, unaddressed stress. And of course, it's sleep that is the foundation to stress management. That is absolutely the case. We talk about recovery, but we're actually talking about rest. We're actually talking about sleep. When you don't sleep enough, your body stays in a chronically stressed state. You don't get to recover from it. You don't get to ever shut it off long enough for your body to recover. Stress levels stay elevated, inflammation increases, blood pressure stays high, blood sugar regulation not there, immune system gets suppressed day after day, week after week, year after year. And that's how sleep deprivation leads to disease. It's not direct. It's not, oh, I missed a night of sleep. For most people, right? I missed a night of sleep. Now I had a heart attack. But that can happen when we've had chronic levels of elevated stress for years, chronic sleep deprivation, chronic stress, chronic inflammation, disease. That's the path. The good news is, the good news is you can interrupt the pathway. You can make it stop, but you actually have to sleep. You actually have to prioritize getting enough sleep and actually do it. So set a bedtime, protect that bedtime, turn off the screens, wind down properly, give your body the 7 to 9 hours that it needs to recover and repair. And seven, probably pretty low. Once you really get into sleep, you're going to find that eight, ooh, that feels good. Eight or even more feels really nice because it gives your body the time it needs to recover and repair. And it's an absolute concrete step you can take. And I'm talking about bedtime, going to bed in time for you to get that 7 to 9 hours is a real step that you can take to seriously, dramatically improve your health when you get enough sleep consistently for weeks, months, and years. Things start changing. And so we're so grateful for the experts and the data that's out there now to prove that. So after seeing all this information, right, talking about heart rate variability, body battery, thank you Garmin, understanding the research on impulse control and disease risk. I am I'm telling you, this year was huge for me because I was able to see how this all connects together. I wasn't just hearing sleep is good, sleep was good. I was seeing it for myself. And if seeing it for yourself is going to help, then by all means, start tracking, do something for a little while. I encourage my clients with nutrition. Hey, track it for a little while. See what it looks like. Actually look at it. Don't just say, "Oh, I'm trying my best." Actually track it and see where you are at. And I have to be honest about what this looked like for me, this whole transition, because I've been talking about it for a long time and claiming to be a healthy person, but I wasn't actually doing it. And I'll share a little clip from you from episode 241. This was an anniversary reflection episode. After doing the after doing the show for 4 years, I was reflecting back on some of the big changes that I made. And of course, sleep was one of them. Here's what I had to say about it. And of course, we've had experts on. They've said if there's one thing you're going to focus on, one thing that's going to absolutely move the needle in your health now and long term, it's sleep. The more I've learned about it, the more important it's become to me, person, to take a look at sleep. And here's where it has made the biggest difference for me. And I think for you as well, if there's an opportunity to improve sleep, here's where it's going to show up for you. It's going to show up in the nighttime routine. I think most of us tend to wake up, we tend to get up out of bed at the same time as a result of the schedule of the day, but it's on the front side of the sleep schedule where we often need to make some adjustments in order to spend more time sleeping, right? And also to sleep better while we're there. So first of all, the time, I mean that has changed a lot for me over the years. And um I have a wife that loves to stay up. She's kind of a night owl, always has been. I personally feel like that's probably the comfortable place for me as well, is to kind of stay up a little bit later, sleep in the morning. My schedule just hasn't allowed that. So what I've done over the years is made sure that I got up, and I was always kind of looking at the clock. And for me, for some reason, I was like 6 hours, 6 hours. That's enough sleep. That's fine. As long as I get 6 hours, right? If I have to get up at 4, I just got to be sleeping by 10, 6 hours, right? Oh, was I wrong? I was wrong for so many years. And it's it's no secret, right? 8 hours is the ideal, right? Or even a little bit more. Some experts now are saying seven minimum, 7 to 8. Like it's out there. It's well established. When we look at how sleep cycles work and we look at circadian rhythms, that's the amount of time that we need. So I have to look at my schedule and say, am I even getting myself to bed in time to be there for 7 to 8 hours, laying down in the dark with my eyes closed, right? Is it even possible? And as a result, I got to adjust the nighttime routine. But as I've gotten older and as I've learned from experts these last 4 years, that front side of the sleep schedule, the evening time, I've come to cherish getting to bed earlier for years. Years. I told myself 6 hours is enough. I told myself I was getting, I'm getting about 7. I'm doing good when really I wasn't. I was trying to get to bed by 10. I was getting up for sure by 4:45. And of course, I wasn't getting to sleep at 10. I was rarely getting to bed at 10. I was staying up later a lot of the time. So I definitely wasn't getting 7. Maybe it was closer to 6, sometimes even less. And the thing was, I knew that sleep was important. I have been in health and fitness for decades. I interviewed experts who all emphasized sleep. I told my clients they need to prioritize sleep, but I wasn't doing it for myself. I was using kind of the evening hours as like revenge time, if you know what I mean. Staying up late to do whatever I wanted after a day of, being busy, having responsibilities, maybe doing a bunch of things that I didn't really choose, someone else chose for me. And so my revenge time was right watching TV, scrolling social media, having a little bit of alcohol, and not going to bed, not getting good sleep. In fact, doing things that were keeping me awake and then impairing the sleep that I was able to get while I was laying there with my eyes closed. And so every morning I would pay for it, but I had adapted to that payment so much that I just got used to it. Like that was just what life was. And so I had to change. Had to change. And for me, that was getting more serious about a firm bedtime, not just to trying to be in bed by time, right? Sounds like, oh, treat myself like I'm a toddler, bedtime. Hey, that's what we need. That's why we need those toddlers to sleep too, right? Because we know that their sleep is important to their attitude, to their behavior, and of course to their health. And so, hey, why wouldn't we do that for ourselves as adults? Why wouldn't we have the wisdom to do that for our own brains and bodies? And so, a lot of the adjustments I make, hey, being aware of, um, again, alcohol use, the things I was doing in the evening before bed, how close to bedtime that I was eating, the types of foods that I was eating in the evening, um, it all had a positive impact as I was tracking the data for myself. And the results, of course, were that my heart rate variability improved, my body battery, thank you, Garmin, once again, my body battery had a chance to recharge. My energy during the day was better, more energy, better mood, positivity, my workouts feeling easier. I'm lifting heavier. My digestion improved. I'm just feeling better overall. And I know the reason. I know the reason. Sleep. It wasn't just one factor among many for me. It was the factor. It was the foundation upon which everything else needs to be built. And it's going to probably be the same for you and your health, unless you are like a super sleeper already. Now, last thing I want to share with you. I know you're thinking, Nate, this is all great. I believe it. That's awesome. But I don't have time for that much sleep. I'm too busy. Of course, I used to say the same thing. And then I started thinking a little bit different way when it came to how I used time, spent time, or invested time. And I couldn't put it any better than my guest, Michelle Niemeyer, did in episode 283. I want you to listen to what she has to say.
So if you're that person and you're going to work and you work in a job where you have to do, hard, like brain work where you have to stay focused and you have to be productive, what you're going to find is that the task that takes you an hour when you're in a peak condition is going to take you 2 hours or more when you're not in the peak condition because you're distractible and because you're not getting it done as fast. And on top of that, it may affect your mental capacity, as in like your short term memory and that kind of thing.
Sure.
So you may be in a position where it takes you longer because now you're looking up the number that you just wrote down, but you can't remember half of it. Right?
Yeah.
Like you got to fill in the verify thing and you're like, there's 6 numbers on it. And you get back after 4 of them and you're like, oh my God, what are the other two? And you have to look back. Right? That
Hmm.
just took more time.
Right. And you're doing
So,
that probably more times throughout the day in so many ways than you even
right.
realize,
And you
right?
add it up. And so when you start doing those things and you take away the amount of wasted time that's caused by those inefficiencies that are
Yeah.
directly associated with your health, you're gaining an hour a day, probably, just with that, just with the health part.
Doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that make sense? If you're rested, you're going to do everything better. You're going to do it quicker and you're going to be much more productive. Rest, it's not just time that we spend doing something that someday is gonna pay us off. Like I'll be healthier, so maybe I'll live longer, that kind of thing. But getting enough sleep right now is going to help you to show up better every single day, get more done, be more efficient, and enjoy life so much more, have a better mood, have more energy. You get more done in less time with less effort, and you feel better doing it. It's not an expense. Sleep is not an expense. We're not spending time sleeping. We are investing time sleeping. It's going to make tomorrow better. Absolutely. It pays massive dividends in productivity, efficiency, decision making, energy. The time you lose to sleep, you more than make up for in increased effectiveness during your waking hours. So I wouldn't say, I don't have time to get that much sleep. I can't afford to get that much sleep. You really can't afford not to. You really can't. And this isn't just a theory. Of course, Michelle's journey she shared with us on that episode. Um, another living example of how prioritizing health makes a huge difference in how we show up. So stop. Stop sacrificing sleep for what you think is productivity. Sleep is productivity. It's one of the most productive things that you can do. So just wrapping this one up, there's no hack for sleep. I don't have I don't have any secrets. I don't have any tricks. There's no shortcuts. There's no supplement or technique that replaces actually sleeping for 7 to 9 hours. And maybe that's why getting enough sleep is so frustrating for us. We need that time. It's going to improve our health. We well established that, right? I don't care how tough you think you are. I don't care if you tell me you're going to sleep when you're dead. I don't care how much coffee you drink. Your biology doesn't negotiate. You need sleep. We all need it. So here's your action plan. Thanks for sticking with me all the way to the end. Here's the action plan. Calculate how much sleep you're actually getting. And not the time that you go to bed if while you're there, you're scrolling on your phone, watching TV or whatever. I'm talking about actual sleep time. Just calculate how much you're actually getting. If you are getting less than 7 hours of sleep, that's your first priority. Number one priority. It's not a new workout plan. It's not a diet. It's not supplements. It's just sleep. It's just more time sleeping. If you get that right, everything else gets easier. And if you ignore it, then everything's going to be harder than it needs to be. That I can assure you. So I spent my years telling myself 6 hours is enough, less than six. Oh, maybe I didn't quite get enough sleep last night. But data proved me wrong. Research proved me wrong. My body knew it all along. Of course, don't make the same mistake I did. Or if you have been making that mistake, cut it out. Prioritize sleep now before your body forces you to. Thanks for listening. Seriously, go to bed earlier tonight. Your body's going to thank you. I'll talk with you again soon. Until then, keep taking good care of yourself.